This whole thing started when we started making beads of courage and trying to figure out a way to do this. And the dimensions of a beads of courage box is fairly large. So it takes a pretty good sized hunk of wood. And when Sammy came back from the Texas symposium in Waco last year, he mentioned that he'd seen a guy that had made some out of PVC box, out of try that again, PVC pipe. And I thought that was a good idea. So I looked the guy up. His name is Johnny Tolley, and he's from Austin, Texas. And this is what he put together. Which way have we got to go there? Okay. So this is what he put together for making these beads of courage boxes. This thing is actually about 30, 40 pages. I forget how many exactly. It's long, actually 41 pages long, and we have posted this on our website. It's very thorough. He goes through step by step. The way he does it, he makes some custom jaws out of wood and mounts them on his chucks, and uses some other special tools and everything. I wanted to simplify it a little bit because I didn't want to make wooden chucks, and I wanted to try to find a way to do this where everybody could do it. So I modified it a little bit so that, and I'll show you as I go along how I do it. But again, this will be on our website, and you're welcome to look at it. We have Johnny's permission to load this on our website. I actually emailed him, he gave us permission. So start out with here, the pipe itself is a PVC 6-inch sewer pipe. So 6 inches in diameter, and there's actually a couple of places you can get this. Central Supply, Pipe Supply here in Jackson, actually in Pearl, this is on 49 South, has it. And so does Lowe's. Now the pipe from Lowe's is green. And when I first started this, I didn't think I wanted green pipe. So I called Central Supply, Pipe Supply, and went down there and talked to them. And they only had 20-foot lengths for sale at first, and it was like 60-something dollars, I think. The Lowe's, the green pipe, I think is about 35 for 10 feet. So anyway, the gentleman down there by the name of Alvin said, I told him what we were going to do with this, make the beads of courage box, what they were for and everything. And he actually went out, found the 10-foot section, and he donated it to me. He thought it was a good cause. He belongs to a club that does a lot of service projects, and actually was very familiar with Blair Batson here locally, which is where we're going to donate these. And so he gave me a 10-foot section. I've already cut these down, but I'll show you how Johnny does it. It's actually a pretty good idea. So what the easiest way to do this, of course, 10-foot long or longer is kind of hard to handle, but once you get them down smaller, it's easier. But what he uses is he wraps, actually has a thin piece of aluminum, but I had a plastic ruler here that he wraps around the pipe and then puts a regular hose clamp on there, which of course I got it a little too small right now. But anyway, he mounts it, puts that on there, measures the length, and has that, and then he draws a circle around so that you can have a place to cut. And then you can move it down in your sections however long you want. These are anywhere between like 5.5 inches, and 6 inches long is what I cut. Once you cut them, actually you can cut them on a bandsaw, you can cut them with a hand saw. You can do it on a table saw, but be very careful when you're cutting this on a power saw, the bandsaw or a table saw. Being round, it'll tend to grab it, you can roll it in and grab your hand. So best thing to do is use a V-block to slide it through part way and then rotate it as it starts to cut. And that'll do it right like that. Once you get it done, and I'll show you this when we get over to the lathe, you need to clean up the ends to make it work, to get it smooth and to get them square. So once you do that and you get them round, what I did, as you can see on this one, is I actually painted the inside to match more to the outside. Looks a little better. So if you're actually using the green pipe, it doesn't matter if you're going to paint the inside. Now this one, which is still not assembled here, I left white because it matched more to the outside. So it really depends on what you want. If you are going to paint, you need to make sure you find some paint that says it's good for plastic. And this Krylon I got at Lowe's does say that it works on plastic, so it should be durable. One other thing to consider is, especially with the lighter colors like this one here with the white, is the ink on the outside here. You want to get that off because it could show through the fabric. Acetone, just on a little rag and you can wipe it, it'll take that right off, no problem. And what I do is I clean the inside and the outside of this before I painted it. Also the outside before I glue the fabric on. The fabric, as you can see, can you show a little bit over here, Gerald? All these boxes here. Lots of fabric choices available. Some of this came from Walmart, some of it came from a fabric store. And they're what they call a fat quarter. If you're not familiar with that, if you have a wife that sews, she can explain it better than I can, but a fat quarter is basically a quarter of a yard. Looks like you're a little out of focus there, maybe, Gerald. Okay. But a fat quarter is, like I said, it's a quarter of a yard, and it happens to be just the right length to cut strips out of and wrap around the 6-inch PVC pipe. So, show it back over here. What I attach the fabric with, we're learning, guys. Hang on, hold on there with us. Is a 3M Super 77 spray. It's very tacky. So what I do once I get it all cleaned off is I'll take it outside, and I have made, this is one of the cutoffs from one of the other boxes. So what I do is I put that inside, just on the top to keep the spray out of the inside. Of course, in this, it's either on a piece of wood or scrap wood, or I mean a cardboard box. Spray all around it, and then bring it back inside and lay out the fabric, which this is a strip I've cut off that fat quarter. And you lay it out on a surface, and once you spray the box, I bring it in and then I pop the center out. And if you just lay this on here and roll it, because it's tacky, it will pick up the fabric as you roll it, and then roll it back the other way, and it will stick on there. Now, I didn't want to go out and spray this and then bring it in right now, trying to do this in a timely manner. But you end up basically with it glued on like that. And you can see I cut this a little bit large. You can get out of a fat quarter either 3 or 4 of these at a time. Where it overlaps here, the easiest way to do this is if you clamp this to your workbench, clamp it down like this. And if you have a rotary cutter, which I don't know if you're familiar with these, but it's a very sharp, basically a razor blade, round razor blade in here that rolls. So once you get this on there, you clamp it down so it doesn't roll on you. Get a straight edge and just run this across where it overlaps. Then you can peel this back a little bit, peel off the sections you cut out, lay it back down, and they'll match up perfectly. A little bit more. There we go. Got to go the other way. So once you get it all laid down and cut this cut off, and that this 3M adhesive, it's super tacky and dries really fast. So you get that done, and then you can trim around this edge with a pair of scissors. Just trim it. Doesn't have to be right up to the edge because it's going to be in a groove, so you won't see the bottom anyway. And what I do is take just regular white glue, because it dries perfectly clear, and I've already done it on this one. Here's my seam right here. Not sure how well you can see that. Probably can't even see the seam. And I run a bead of the white glue down where the seam is, and then just work it in with my fingers just to kind of seal that edge. Same thing on the top, is I run a bead around and then push it down all the way around and let it dry. Flip it over and do the other end. Now this side I had a little bit of an overlap, and this side I got it actually trimmed a little closer, but again, it doesn't matter because you're going to be down in a groove and you'll never see it. So as you can see on these, once it's in there, you don't see the fabric at all, the end of it. Okay? And these are the ones that he showed you a minute ago. There's some of the boxes I've done. To actually make the box, and we'll start that in just a few minutes, I'll start turning. This one has finish on it, but I have not glued it together yet. Everything, as you can see, still comes apart. So I can show you the different pieces. So you end up, and what you need, what I actually had was some, I remember it's 4/4 or 5/4 cherry boards that I cut into discs, about between 7 and 8 inches. Your pipe's 6 inches, a little bit over that on the outside diameter, but you want this outside edge here. So what I did is I cut mine square, and then I ran them through my bandsaw and resawed them so that they're much thinner. So you have the bottom piece. You'll have the top ring.
Well, a note on you said cherry board. You can use any kind of lumber or log that you got as long as it's dry. If you want to use pine and dye it or just use pine, that'll work for these too.
Yeah.
So don't feel restricted just because he used cherry.
Yeah, that's just what I had. I got a good deal on this from the bandsaw guy down there in McGee. It's really a good deal. So that's what I use. Like I said, I cut it, but any 3/4 stock you can get at Lowe's or anywhere here locally will work, or what you have on hand. Like I said, this is just what I had. So you have the bottom, the top ring, and then the lid, and then you'll have some type of a knob. And then somewhere on the box by the Beads of Courage, they request that you put Beads of Courage somewhere on the box. It can be inside the box or outside, but it should say somewhere Beads of Courage. And we have these as a club, these beads already, moving backwards here, these beads that you can buy from the club. How much are they, Gerald? $1.25 for these beads. And they also come with this card that on the back of it, see if I can get it one out here real quick. Has a place for you to put your name, where you live, and the types of wood you use. And you can put these down in the box when you send them off. That way the recipients will know who they came from.
Guys, when I deliver these, I also put in a club card, but you will, some of these people will actually contact you. I've gotten several thank you cards from parents, and I got one that was written by the patient. So always identify yourself on these things somehow so they can possibly identify you. They can send an email to the club or to you.
Okay. What I have finished these with is just spray can lacquer. This is a clear satin Minwax. Get it from Lowe's. Lowe's is the closest store to me, so that's where I get a lot of my stuff. They say to use something with low VOC, so that, you know, a lot of these kids are extremely sick. So you don't want something that's going to be really smelly. Now, these I've done a while back. They've been airing out. There's still a little bit of smell to them, so I'll probably take them out and open them up outside and let them sit for a while before we donate them, just to kind of keep the smell down. One other thing here, in a minute, we're going to show a video of the beads of courage so you know more about the program. But on these, one of the main things that I did different than what Johnny does is when he does his, he finishes his bottom kind of like this, which is the inside of mine, just smooth. And I've got rings on mine. And the reason I've done that is so I can grip this with my jaws. And that's the main difference between what I do and the way Johnny Tolley does his. And I've done that on all of these, and I'll show you the process so that you end up flipping some of these back and forth when you mount them on the lathe so that you can have access to them in different sections. Excuse me. But as you can see, I've done different, a little bit of a texture on that one, kind of hard to see. A little bit of texture on the inside there. That one's just plain, nothing in that one. Again, just the rings here for where I have it chucked up in the lathe. Too many different ones here. This one, instead of rings, just one large opening. You have to remember that these guys that are going to be receiving these are not Woodturners. They're not looking for the perfect finish. So, you know, whatever you give, they're going to appreciate this. This one, I've made some grooves in it, some beads. So, what I tried to do with the knobs is either paint them, as you can see on this one, the orange kind of matches the fabric I used. You can use it as a plain, like I did on this one. The knob on this has no color on it. It's just natural wood. It's all one piece. And I've been putting the beads in the tops. That's how I identify and mark them with beads of courage on mine. These actually, one of the first ones I've did, had this piece of stabilized and acrylic inlay in this piece. These were, I won two of these actually at one of the club auctions. They were cut-offs from the insides of bracelet blanks that somebody had bought and had several of them and donated them to the club. And I actually got two of them, and it just happened to match really well with the fabric I chose on that. And the same on this one. This was the second one. Again, has the color that match the fabric. So, Gerald, if you want, can you show the video? And while he's doing that, I'm going to reposition the camera and we'll get over to the lathe. One other thing while he's looking for the video, I forgot to mount these in the bottom and the top. You can use different types of glue, but the easiest thing I found is I just use some, there we go. Just regular silicone, again, from Lowe's. Run a bead around the ring on the top and bottom, and then just put it together. And that holds it really well. That's how all of those boxes are assembled. Okay. And then on the other computer? Yeah. You were going to share your screen on that one. And I forgot to welcome everybody to the beautiful downtown Burbank here this morning, live from our studios. And again, we're learning. We'll get this down. While he's doing that, does anybody have any questions?
Everybody else has got a picture.
No questions?
I think we're all overcome with your presentation. Give us a moment to gather our thoughts.
Or everybody's asleep already.
I got
Sure
one
would.
question. You said the originator who wrote all this up did not do circles on the bottom. He apparently had a smooth bottom.
Yes, he actually did. He just kind of made them concave, I believe. In fact, again, this package he put together has lots of photos in it, and it's very, very thorough. I was actually able to go through his and learn the process just by this. So you can see, actually, this is one of his. And I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that's the bottom. He just has a couple of small grooves for little decoration. And then that's the inside of it. And he uses coal jaws on some of the wooden jaws that he has made. Again, I was trying to not do that, trying to find a way, because you can hold these with a vacuum chuck, you can hold them with coal jaws, lots of different ways. But I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So like I was saying, you cut the PVC and then you have to smooth it. And the way I have done this is, give me a minute here. Get my smock on here so that I don't get my mic cord tangled up. As I'm turning, because we may make sure we all stay safe. Use your face shield and dust collection, all that, so that you can keep on turning. Now, can you still hear me okay?
Is that a new smock?
It is actually Timber Bits, which is an Australian company, sells this, and I really like it because nothing sticks to it. All the chips just fall off. I had another one, and it was like a Velcro. All the wood chips just stayed on it. So actually, this was only $25 or so from Timber Bits in Australia, and shipping was very reasonable. They're a good company. It just takes a while to get stuff because it is shipped international, but it does come in a reasonable amount of time. We've ordered a couple of things from them. What I'm doing is I'm setting up to show you how I trim the PVC. One of the things on the PVC is it does make a huge mess when you trim it. If you ever cut PVC, you get these white stringers everywhere. So I'm not going to actually do that right now. I am going to just show you what I do and how I hold the PVC. And I've got to go to my notes here because I'm losing my place.
We can't see your work.
Well, I haven't done anything yet.
Okay.
You've got to find a way to hold the PVC in here. And the easiest way to do that I have found, and I should have had this set up before, but I did not. So give me just 1 second here. Is to use a faceplate. on here. I take that back. That is not what I did. Guys, I apologize. I just went brain dead on this. Doesn't take much. I remember now. Apologize. Take that back off. What I used, actually, let me leave that one there a minute. I used my cold jaws mounted on my vise, or I mean on my chuck, to hold the outside edge of this while I trim it. And I don't like using cold jaws. They don't hold very well, but it was good enough to just trim this if you take really light cuts. So I mount those on my chuck, and I'm just pretending this is the cold jaws in this instant here. And then I've cut a disc, which is the right diameter to fit inside of here. So I press it in, and it's a fairly tight fit. And this actually fits in my live center. And then I bring it up, clamp the cold jaws on it, and hold that in there, and then I can spin it and trim this edge nice and flush here. Then once we get that done, you can take a knife or something to scrape this edge to get rid of it, because you'll have a little bit of a burr on this when you cut the PVC. If possible, I would have my vacuum cleaner or vacuum system going, because again, the PVC, the strings go everywhere. But if you just take a knife and run this around, it'll just get rid of that burr. You can see it cleaning up right there. And I just run that around on the inside and the outside, and that'll clean that edge up nice and smooth. And it's probably better if you're going to be doing several of these, just take this and do them several at a time. And that's what I did, is I cut that pipe and the links. I trimmed all of them, cleaned them all up, so I've got them all ready to go. That's why I couldn't show you how to cut them, because I didn't have any to cut at the time. I have a live center. Gotta change the camera.
What is that that you have on the board there? What's that piece?
That is just, it came with this is a Nova Live Center. It came with different fittings. Can you do the overhead? Maybe you can see down. Oh, that is, okay. I can bring this up. There we go. This is my live center. As you can see, there's a hole in here, and I can add different centers to it. And this particular one, let me get this back out of here. Like I said, it's a tight fit. Actually, let me just do it this way. I've just got a block of wood in there and a bolt that screws, it's threaded into this piece here, and that holds it in there. So that just slides in, and then I can bring it up again on the cold jaws to hold it, and then just bring that up and snug it up to hold it. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second here to take this back off. What I do, I'll show you just 1 second. These are the pieces that I've cut. This is going to be for the lid. You can see where I resawed it. I'm not real good. Didn't get it real even. And this is going to be the top and the bottom. And what I have done is when I'm done, I like to try to match up the grain on the top and the bottom of the box. So right now I've just got an arrow there. It will disappear and I'll lose it, but at least to start out with that. But this was the rough piece of cherry that I resawed when it was square. Then I cut the circles out. Doesn't really matter which one I use as top or bottom to start. I've got a center mark, so it should be fairly close when I mount this. When I first start these, since I don't have any way to grip this and I didn't want to use cold jaws, and because it's not perfectly round, because I'm not good at sawing circles, what I do is I bring the tailstock up, hit my center point there, a little bit off. And get my center real well. Yeah. Bring this up nice and snug, and with it trapped between the headstock and the tailstock, it's not going to go anywhere. So what I'll do, start out at a fairly low speed, again thinking safety here. Check this, make sure I'm not going to hit. Start off at a low RPM, this is on 500, and stand off to the side. And I can bring my speed up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just round this outside, fairly round. Come in from one side, then I'll come in from the other so you don't chip out the edge when you come off the back side there. I'm just going to check it real quick. That's pretty close. So now what I'll do, this is going to be the inside of the box, of the bottom. So I'm going to smooth this surface up now. So I'm going to cut that surface smooth, and I'm going to cut the tenon on this so I can flip it over and remount it. That's pretty smooth there. I'm going to go one more time, see if I can get rid of that line. So I'm going to make my tenon here now. Does not have to be real deep, but I got to go in actually a little bit more here to fit in my truck. And I have made just a little gauge I can use to see where I am. That's pretty close. I'm going to use a parting tool to square this up, and I have dovetail jaws, so this comes in a little bit at an angle here, and it gives me a nice flat. And now I can take this back off there and mount this in the jaws. Make sure it's nice and snug. I'm going to bring the tailstock back up just for safety here. And this will be the bottom of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth this up, get rid of the raw wood there, get a nice smooth surface. I'm going to cut a groove for a recessed tenon on here, and then just some decorative grooves and round the bottom slightly. So that'll be our bottom of the box. I'll also make it slightly concave so that the outside edge sits flat on a surface. I would also normally, as I go, sand these before I flip them to get that when I'm ready to do the finish on them, so that we get a nice finish on there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time sanding today. So now I'm just going to round this edge a little bit from the bottom. It's easier if you do it now than once you start cutting those grooves. All this thin wood out here, it'll really start to squeal on you. So I just try to do it when I can here, when I still have a little more thickness on it. So what I'll now do is cut the recessed tenon, and I'll use my dividers to mark where I want it to go. Now, most of you guys have probably done this. You got the overhead, Gerald? With dividers. Coming in at an angle here because of my tailstock, you really got to watch everywhere. If you don't, you catch that point, it can flip, these can flip. I found out the hard way the other day. Got my finger there, crammed the calipers up in the palm of my hand, and cut this one too. As it got that point, I was in too much of an angle, too busy watching this side, the downside, hit that, and it jammed it back again into my hand, gave me a couple of cuts. It did not feel good. So do this very slowly. Again, bringing up the downhill side here, like a light mark there, so I know where to cut the recess. Again, I'll use my parting tool. Cut this. again, I just make a couple decorative cuts on the outside out here just to give the bottom some decoration. Now, one thing you got to watch out for is you remember you're going to cut a groove on what will be the inside of the box. That groove on the inside, you don't want one on the outside in the same spot and end up cutting through and then having a bottom that just fits up in there recessed. So you gotta be careful with that. So I know this will be about a 1/2 inch or so inside from this when I'm done. So I'll bring in a couple grooves out here just to decorate it. And the further out I get here, the more it's gonna squeal. I'm going to bring my tailstock back now and finish off the center here and make sure I've got a recess here so that it doesn't sit on the center and rock back and forth. Need to lower that just slightly. All right. Use my straight edge and see. Yeah, okay. You can see here, there's a little bit of a gap here and along here. So it's going to sit out on this outer edge when it's done. So it won't rock, it'll sit nice and flat. Again, I would go ahead and sand this right now if I was going to go ahead and finish this. But again, for the demo, I'm not going to sand. So I'm going to take it and reverse this, and hopefully I got my groove correct. There we go. Bring up my tailstock again. Bring up a little bit of pressure on it, make sure it's centered, and then tighten this down. I'm going to go ahead and finish rounding this, which will be the outside edge. And I did notice that I still have a couple areas here with some saw blade marks, so I still have to reduce this diameter slightly. Anybody have any questions? Because I'm not that good at cutting nice and smooth. I cheat and I use a skew as a negative rate scraper here, just kind of smooth that up a little bit before I sand. And the sanding should finish taking all that out. Excuse me one second. Get a little drink of water here. All right, what I'm going to do now is determine where my groove goes for the recessing of this. I'll knock this. Out a piece of PVC. There we go. One thing to remember too is a PVC is not perfectly round. sits outside with other PVC stuffed on it, hot sun, it can get kind of oval, so they're not perfectly round. So what I'm going to do, use my dividers again,
Phil,
and yes,
what is your desired thickness, finished thickness for that bottom? What are you shooting for?
since I'm resawing it, I just kind of, whatever it turns out to be, I try to get the top and the bottom about the same, but it really doesn't matter. These end up about a 1/2 inch. And again, because I'm resawing the lids, show you this one here, it ends up, the lids actually end up pretty thin. But one thing you want to remember on the lids is you want a loose fit. You want it light. These kids are sick. They've been in the hospital, lots of treatments. So you want something they can easily grab and lift off. So we're not going for a Woodturners suction fit here. You don't want it to pop when you pull it off. You want actually a nice loose fit for them on this. So these actually end up being fairly thin, but they're light, which is what we need.
So a 1/2 inch would do top, I mean, for the bottom, as far as finished on the bottom, about
Yeah,
a half
yeah,
thereof.
that's it. This is about a 1/2 inch is what this is. And let me back up a minute, since the video didn't play and I kind of didn't get that. So a lot of you guys know this, some of you may not. Beads of Courage was started for kids with terminal illnesses that go through constant treatments. They get blood transfusions, they lose their hair through chemo or radiation, they have blood draws constantly. Every time they go through one of the procedures, whether it's a blood draw or when they lose their hair, they get a different colored bead. Now, like us as a Woodturners making the boxes for them to store them in, there are people that are making the beads. So the beads are handmade by individuals that donate them, just like we're donating the boxes. Have hundreds and hundreds of bees that are terminally ill. So these boxes give a place for them to store their beads. A lot of them string them on the necklaces and they wear them. And you'll just see these kids with these massive beads. And I'm talking little kids, 4 or 5 year olds or younger sometimes. They just have hundreds of beads. And giving them the bead, and that's why it's called the bead of courage, is something to say, you did good on that. You're strong and you're fighting, and we want to recognize that. So they give them these beads. They become really important for them. Sorry, I get choked up every time I talk about this. These boxes, and there are specific dimensions that I'll give you here in a little bit. They want them big enough for the kids to keep them in, and they want them light enough that they can pick them up and move them and everything. But a lot of times if the kids don't make it, these boxes become keepsakes for the parents. And that's all they'll have for their from their child as a memory. Obviously pictures and stuff, but it really is important. Can become important to the parents too. So, this is just a great project. It means a lot to them. It's a good thing for us to do as a club, be active in the community, to give back. And that's why we're pushing this. So my little spiel there, sorry. Gerald's going to say something. I can't hear you yet, Gerald.
Okay, now you should be.
Okay.
The unit that we're donating to is the CF, cystic fibrosis. And I know most of you don't know anything about cystic fibrosis, but it's something that affects children really young, usually before they're 6. And it is rare for them to make it past 24. Most of them don't make it into their mid-teens. So it's a high terminal illness. There's no cure. They alleviate the symptoms and they help them to get as far as they can. But the unit that we're donating to is the only unit in Mississippi that uses beads of courage. It's at Blair Batson. Like I said, I was fortunate enough that she took us up one time but usually we just meet in the lobby and give them to her, and then she takes them up and distributes them. And what she tries to do, since we don't have enough to give to every child, she gives them, like Phil said, gives them to those parents that lose one. And this is a big thing for them. They're really happy to have something for memory.
Thanks, Gerald. Okay, what I'm going to do is cut the ring groove, excuse me, for the mounting the PVC. And once I actually grabbed the wrong one. One thing you want to do is when you fit these, is you want to have the fabric already attached to the box. So this is one I'm going to do. This is already attached on there, glued on, sealed and everything. So what I've done is, Gerald, can you get the tailstock in here or not? I can set it up here. So I've got my dividers. I'm going to measure to the outside of this, point to point. That gives me my outside diameter for this. So I'm going to turn the lathe on again. And I'm going to mark that outside edge. Again, trying to be very careful here so I don't hurt myself again. So there's my groove. Now that is, like I said, that is the outside diameter for the groove. And with my parting tool, I know I need to go just slightly larger than the width of my parting tool, which is about 1/8 of an inch. Again, you don't have to have this real tight. So I'm just going to take, this is where it starts squealing. Just going to come in a little bit, stop the lathe, pull the tailstock back, and check to see if I'm in the right area here for the diameter, which it looks like it is. So now I can see, I don't think you can see on the inside. Yeah, you actually can. It's fitting in there nicely. So I'm going to start the lathe, bring everything back up, and then I'll make that, a little bit over 1/8 of an inch or so deep on this. You don't want to go too deep and make that edge too thin. That's another thing they recommend is you make these boxes durable. You don't want something that's real fragile because it is kids handling them. So I'm just going to bring it through. Second, I'll be through it all. Stop it one more time and make sure I've got that fit correctly. Okay, so that'll work nicely once it's all sanded and everything. Again, I'll put some silicone around in there, and that's what will hold it on. So now,
Bill, may I ask,
yeah.
I know you're fitting that PVC, and this may be a dumb question, but do you want a little bit of room for the glue, or do you want a surface fit?
It's a little bit wide. You don't want to make it too wide, and you don't want to put too much silicone in there because you don't want it squeezing out and coming up the side. I made that mistake on one. Fortunately, it's clear. It's a little bit shiny in one spot. If you look, you'll find it. But so you're just going to put a thin bead in here and put it in there. If a little bit squeezes out, that's fine, especially on the inside, because you can reach down in there and kind of smooth it out a little bit. If you ever, I don't know if any of you have ever used silicone as an adhesive, but it's actually pretty strong. It's not going to come out. Again, you just want this deep enough to get a little bit in there, keep a little bit of thickness on this. You can go maybe halfway or so. I mean, if this is still a 1/4 inch or so thick, that's fine. I probably could have gone a little bit deeper on this one, but actually I think that's enough to get my silicone in there, and boxes will hold up fine. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna come in from the outside here, smooth sure this edge actually is pretty smooth. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna make this slightly concave, making sure I don't go too thin and cut through the bottom, hopefully. Of course, nobody ever does that. Nobody does it during a demo either, right? So I'm just gonna come in, take care of the center here. And then I'm gonna come in, I want it slightly concave on the center. Rather than similar to the outside medium. And that's probably as thin as I want to go on that. I'm just trying to draw it back here on the edge, a little bit smooth that. And that's got a fairly decent concave to it. It's a little bit high in the center. But it's close, pretty close right now that the sanding would take care of that. And I'll get my ruler again here so you guys can see. You know, it's a little bit hard on the screen. But get overhead, Gerald. You can see the gap in there where it is concave. So the outside is fairly flat. When I sand this, I'd actually round this a little bit more. You can do it however you like. You can leave it square, you can make it round. Whatever looks good to you is what you want to do. So basically that is the bottom of the box. You could actually decorate in here if you'd like, but it's going to be down on the bottom. So there's the decorations. I'll put this back on later on. I'll smooth these up a little bit, and I'll do the sanding on it and sand this side. So there's your bottom. Any questions on that? Okay. Find my other piece of wood here. Okay. Now we'll do this top. We're going to start this the same way as we did the bottom. I'm going to chuck this up between the, just use a friction fit between the chuck and my tailstock. Got that one a little bit off there. That's pretty close. Make sure I got my tailstock up nice and tight. Bring this up and I'll true up that edge. What I also try to do is try to get the top and the bottom about the same diameter. So once I get this smoothed up, I'll measure the outside. Whoop, didn't spin it there. There we go. They don't have to be the exact size, but I think it probably looks a little bit better if they're fairly close. Again, we're not going to be judged on these. People are very appreciative to get these, and they'll appreciate the work and time and effort you put into these for somebody you probably don't even know. All right. Let's see how close I got there. Use my calipers here, measure the bottom. And the top is just slightly bigger. So by the time, I got a little bit of a spot right there that's not completely gone yet. So by the time I take that out, and then it gets sanded, it's going to be really close to the same diameter as the bottom. Let me do just a little bit more here. Now you guys that are better with bandsaws may be able to get these really round and perfect. I just get them close. I'm not that talented, so. Okay, let's see how that works. That's pretty good. So now this is going to be the inside of the box. This will be the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth this down and cut a tenon on this side so I can reverse the chuck. Also going to cut my groove for the PVC again so that I get, like I did on the bottom there, I can get a good fit on that. And then we'll start showing you how I cut the center out of that. On this, since you're going to be cutting the center out, you really only need to worry about the about inch and a half of this is getting it nice and smooth and a finish on, because the center is not used at all. So I'm going to take this down enough for my tenon. My handy gauge again. Pretty close. Use my parting tool again to cut a little bit of a dovetail on that for my chuck. As you can see, I'm not making these tenons very deep. These chucks hold very well, so you don't really have to go very deep on these, but you do want to make sure you have a nice flat surface there for the chuck to butt up against. Getting a little bit of a dry throat here. So I'm going to do now, I'm going to use my dividers again, and I'm going to mark the outside again, which still had those set from before. So I'm going to mark that outside groove for this to sit in. And again, that is the outside of it. So I'll bring this in. Take it down a little bit. Forgot about that. Actually, I'm going to leave this now. I'm going to reverse it and do the top, then I'll reverse it back and finish cutting this groove. Getting a little bit out of my own order here. Sorry about that. So I've got that remounted. My tailstock back up. And I want to do is smooth this outside edge again, or the lid here, and cut a tenon on the center here, so I can turn it back around here in just a minute and finish cutting it through. I actually should have done this before I started on the groove. Again, I forgot where I was. Got my groove for the tenon again. Okay. What I'm going to do is go ahead on the outside here. The lid itself will be probably about in there somewhere is where the circle will be cut for the lid. So from outside here, I'm going to bring this at a slight bevel so that it's slightly convex on the top. So the lid, when we set it down on there, will be a nice fit. When you're doing this, as you saw, I kind of lost where I was. I'm going a little bit out of order here. So you have to stop and think as you're going, how are you going to flip it? How are you going to mount it? How are you going to remove the center of this? You know, everything plays into that as you go. Is how are you going to do the next step? And just take a few minutes to think about what you're doing, how you're going to do it, so that you don't end up with a piece that you can't finish because you can't remount it. You have no way to hold it. Yeah, all right. So that will be cut out, so I'm not worried about that. This, if you can see, is slightly curved down towards the outside. I'm going to go ahead and turn this around and round the outer edge here a little bit. Like I did for the bottom, so that we have a nice round edge. Now I'm going to use the negative rake scraper again. Just to smooth that edge up. Again, once it's sanded, it'll be nice and smooth. It'll look pretty good. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to mark the diameter of what's going to be the opening here. What I found, since the PVC pipe is about 6 inches on the inside, a little bit more on the outside. If you take about a ½ inch outside rim, when I cut the groove, that's pretty good. And then about ½ inch or so inside, so that they can reach in about a 5-inch opening. Gives them room to get their hand in there, get the beads out. The lip's not, way over where they can't get the beads out. Just leaves a little bit of a lip there. So I'm going to set my calipers for 5-inch diameter. I just have a ruler. I know you guys can't see this, but just have a ruler laying down here. Actually, my dividers, not my calipers. And set that for 5 inches. And then turn the lathe back on. I'm going to mark this groove. Again, this will be the outside diameter. And it doesn't have to be exact. I just use that as an approximate. And then I will use my parting tool to cut that groove partway through. And again, we're going to squeal here because it's kind of a lot hanging out over the edge here. Back it up with my handle that reduces some of that. The part way in is all I'm going to do right now. Now I'll reverse this, finish cutting my groove for the recess for the PVC. And then I'll mark the 5-inch diameter hole for the lid and cut partway through again. So this is our groove for the PVC. Test that one more time just to make sure I did get the diameter right. I know I checked it before, but well, they say measure twice, cut once, something like that. So yeah, we're pretty good there. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, that should be plenty deep. And when I mark this with a caliper, you may not be able to see if there's a slight groove there where I hit the wrong place the first time. So I'm just going to take a little bit off of here to get rid of that groove. And again, this outer edge is all that you're going to have as part of the box. The center is going to come out. So now I will mark the inside here for the lid. This is still set for the 5 inches. And sneak up on it there. If you want to do it really as close as you can on both sides, because what we end up doing, cutting from both sides, you're going to end up with a ring in the center there. You're going to end up with a spot that you probably have to sand out. So what I'm going to do, bring this back up, cut through part way here, matches up with my outer groove for the lid. Make sure you don't go too deep, go all the way through, because you don't want that ring flopping around on your cut. So bring that in part way. Now I'm going to take off the center there, and you'll see why I'm doing that in a minute when we remount this to finish cutting the lid out. So I want to make sure I get this gone. I want to check and make sure there's not a high point there, and there's not. What I'm going to do, take this off, and we'll finish cutting that groove, or the lid out, and I'll show you how I do that. Now you guys may come up with better ideas on how to do this that fits your tools, what you have. Just think about it, again, step by step, how you're going to work your way through it. Helps if you go the right way. Makes a world of difference. But again, step by step, think your way through it, how you can do it. You may have a vacuum chuck. You may have cold jaws that you don't mind using that are big enough. There's lots of ways to do this. This is the way I came up with. If you watch, look at the information from Johnny Tolley, and he actually has an excellent video on YouTube. If you Google his name or search for his name in YouTube, I think it was about an hour and a half or so long. Very detailed instructions on how to do these. He does a very good presentation. So you might want to look him up if you have any questions on how he does them. Now, what I do, this is a faceplate on the back that I've screwed this piece of particle board to. And this is how I cut the center out without harming myself and keeping everything in line here. I bring the tailstock up and put some pressure on there to hold that, and then tighten it down. And I have some regular packing tape, like for sealing boxes. And I just tape this around in a couple spots here, and it secures it. And it doesn't matter if you go over the groove, because your tool will cut right through this. I just usually put 4 strips on, they overlap around the outer edge.
Phil, did you ever try a vacuum chuck, just out of curiosity?
I have not. I was trying to get this system down so we could use it for the club. I do have a vacuum chuck, and it would be easier for some of this. This part here, though, you really still have to have a way. Now, actually, Johnny does it. He uses some jaws he made, I believe, and he just kind of lets the ring flop out. Actually, I think he does it in cold jaws is how he did it. My cold jaws are not big enough for the outside diameter of this box, so I could not hold it that way. So this is the way I came up with. Again, my tailstock is up against it, so that can't go anywhere. The tape will hold that outer ring. Now, instead of the wider parting tool, I'm going to use a thinner one, and I'm going to come in up here on this outside edge, and hopefully they will line up in the center. So I'm just going to bring it in. You see I cut through some of the tape. I had it where it overlapped a little bit. Widen that a little bit. There we go. You'll know when it goes through. You'll feel it. Now we'll see how close I got on my measurement. There's your center. And could actually take a parting tool or something and smooth that up a little bit. But I happen to have a oscillating sander, round sander, so I just put the round disc on there and I just kind of run the ring around it to smooth that up. And this packing tape seems to excuse me, work pretty well to hold that. It sticks in there. I've not had any issues with it. And any questions from anybody? There's your lid. So now we have the bottom. You got the overhead there, Gerald? Bottom sits down in there. It's down nice in that groove. There's your lid. So there's the basics of it right there. Now, next we'll do the lid. Before I do that, just real quick, you end up with a lot of these, and Johnny's presentation. He talks about it in his instructions we're going to post online. He actually takes these, turns them down, and makes coasters out of them. He has some cork he puts in there. I'll be right back. I'll show you what I've done with some of mine. If I can find where I put them. You'd think I'd be more organized. Lost them. And my shop's not that big. Gerald, I think, must have taken them. Well, I can show you an unfinished one, unless I put them up here. Yep, there we go. I hid it up there on my top of my bench there. So I actually take, sorry, and I've done some basket illusions out of them. So this is the leftovers from one of the lids. I cut the grooves on it, mounted it, cut the grooves on it, and then burned it and did a basket illusion out of it. So there's lots of things, you know, especially as James Bridges showed when he was doing his segmenting demo. Try not to waste the wood. So do the lid. Going to again mount it same way I've been mounting the others, to since there's no tenon or anything on there right now. I don't know about you guys, so I know a lot of you guys don't use the set screw on your chucks, but the dynamic brake on this, don't want it to spin loose when I stop. So I do use my set screw on that. All right, here's the lid. Go back the same basic way we've been doing this. Expand these out all the way real quick. Bring this up, it's nice and snug. Again, this will be the inside, because what I'll do is I'll turn this, smooth up the edge, get this smooth, cut a tenon, flip it over, and actually do the outside of the top. I'll cut actually I go back and forth on these, it just makes it easier to do a little bit at a time. So I'm going to start with the outer edge again. You see it's not real round. Bring it around, and I'll smooth this up and do my tenon.
Hey, about what speed are you turning that at?
This is 1750. It's whatever you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable that fast, then slower, or if you like it faster, that's again you guys. I seem to, I feel a little bit more speed, makes it a little bit easier to cut, makes it a little bit better. Does a little better job, at least for me. So I'm not Jimmy Please, I'm not going the max speed of the lathe either. That's a little too fast for me. Get my tenon set here again. Can't hear you. No. Gerald was trying to ask a question, I think.
Okay. Of note, when you're talking about lathe speeds, when we do the ag, I always tell the kids, if I'm doing less than 1,000, something pops off the lathe, it's going to drop straight down. If you get up to that 3,000, you're going to launch something pretty good. So that's one point about speeds too.
Now, again, I'm showing you my procedure. There may be a more efficient way to do these. And I'm showing you what has worked for me. So now I'm just gonna smooth this up right now. And you notice I didn't round the edges yet on this one because it's gonna end up fairly thin when we're done. The top, I kind of like it just kind of a little bit of a dome to it, not much. I want to try to keep this heavy enough it's not going to break easily on this for the kids. And right now I'm just making another turn so I can turn this back around and mount it without having to have the tail stock up. Some guys can probably get their tenon the right size without measuring. I've made too many too small or too big, taken it off the lathe and won't fit one way or the other. So I've made that just as a little guide, just to give you an idea of where I am. Okay, I'm going to flip this back around, and what we'll do is we'll cut the groove on the outer edge, get the diameter for that, for the lid to fit in the box, and do any decoration I want to do on that, on the inside. Now also, you remember I made this slightly convex here. So when I cut my groove, cut the outer edge here, I want to make sure I come in a little bit so that when it sits down there, it sits flat around the outer edge on there. You get a nice flat finish on it. So this will be my inside. So I'm going to come in from out here. So I don't know if you can tell, but that is slightly concave there on that. So again, I go back to my dividers, and we're still set for the diameter of the opening. Which is slightly bigger than where I am, so I'm going to mark that. That's a little bit large, but I'd rather have a little large start and then come up on it. So now I will take and come in to that line I just made and start test fitting the lid. time I'm going to use my skew. Come up to that line so it's easier. And let's see if it fits. It is, like I said, just slightly larger. So I will take it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And there we go. Nice. Probably went a little bit too much, but again, you don't want it tight. You want that lid just to sit on there. And you can swap views, Gerald, and see because I made that concave that fits nice and flat around the outer edge there. Around here. There's no gap. Sits in there nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make that. Actually, I'll probably leave that about like that because this is getting kind of thin. I don't want to go much thinner than that. So what I'll do is I'll take this out and make a couple of grooves in there just to add a little decoration, make my recess pinning to mount turn it over, mount it, and complete the top. Now, I probably could have used something a little bit thicker on this, so it wasn't quite so thin. Using what I have, so I think they work out fine. I think they'll be good for the kids, not being too heavy. And again, I would have, as we've been going along, would have been sanding these for the finish, but I can do that later on these. And I also usually use a scraper to smooth things up a little bit better. So now I want a recess pinning in there. And set my calipers again. So I have a recess to mount this by.
Hey, Phil, this is the same process in a sense that Frank Bauer used to make the jewelry box, as far as, you know, recessing on the lids and where you can turn them around. Am I seeing that correct?
I think you're correct, Tim. That would be. So that's where I will remount on that pinning right there. And then again, just for decoration, I'm going to make a couple of grooves there. Okay. Now, I made this one in the interior one there slightly wider, the groove, so the thickness of my jaws will fit in there. I'm going to smooth this up just a slight amount. Actually, I'll use a scraper on that. A little bit low. And just for decoration, I'm actually going to make a couple of beads on this. This is a D-Way Tools beading tool, if you guys are not familiar with it. It does an excellent job. Just going to come in here a little bit from the outer edge, bring that in slightly to mark my grooves. An excellent tool for adding some decoration to your project. So once I get them marked, I come back and just kind of finish rounding them. And one nice thing is with a beading tool, you don't have to worry about sanding that much. Because no need to sand because you're cutting away with most of the surface anyway. And the bottom of this beading tool gives a really fine finish. As long as you do it right. Not sure if you can see that or not. Which camera would be better, Gerald? What's that? Well, right overhead. Okay. You can see it a little bit there anyway. That's made by D-Way. And what you can do though, just to smooth that up a little bit, is use some Scotch-Brite. Just hit it a little bit, and it'll smooth that up some without changing the shape of the bead.
So Phil, can you sharpen that with a file, like a round chainsaw file?
Actually, the way you sharpen it, hang on one second, I'll show you. Have a diamond tool, and you come across the end only. You slide it across. Try to hold it flat. You don't do anything in the groove at all. There's 2 points here, and that's what's sharp. So if you just come in here on the end, this one happens to be a 300 and 600 card. So I can just, put my oil on the card and just come in here and just slide it back and forth, and that keeps those real sharp. But you don't want to try to do anything with a groove. That groove has cut the length of that tool, and so it stays pretty constant. All I'm going to do now is just slightly round that last bead there at the center section, just to give it a little shape. So there's your inside of the box. There's the inside of the lid. I'll get that correct in a minute. So what I'll do now is turn it around, mount it on that recessed tenon I just made. And it's going to squeal again because I'm getting kind of thin here on this. That's why I said you could probably make these a little thicker without a problem. Give me 1 second, get another drink here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is come from the outside edge here and just kind of make this nice, as smooth as I can. Nice kind of a little dome shape on this. Well, probably be better coming this way. So I come out to the outside edge. I'm actually coming around it a little bit there, just kind of round that over. You want to shape that. When I sand it, actually, usually I'll take care of the sharp edges here on the bottom and the top and round it with sandpaper. I don't do quite like Buddy and use 40 grit, but I, can start with 60, probably works well. Figured nobody's picked on you today, Buddy. Somebody had to. So I want to bring it down just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is the center there is slightly convex. So you got a little bit of a rise there, give it a little bit of a contour. Again, could probably bring that down a little bit more on the outer edge, but that's actually pretty good right there. So what I'm going to do now is drill a hole in the center. As soon as I find my knockout bar here. The hole for mounting the top, or excuse me, the knob. And what I use is I have my chuck and a Forstner bit. This is a 1/2 inch bit. You got to remember how thin this is, so you're not going to really be able to go that deep. Brought my lathe speed down to about 750. If you're not familiar with using the chuck to drill, you want to hold that with one hand when you go in. And there was a little bit of a point left there from where I had the live center earlier. So hold on your chuck, so especially when you back out, you do not want it to come loose. You come out of there and have a chuck start flopping around. So I went maybe a little bit over 1/4 inch into the center. And that's where the tenon to fit in there, or the, excuse me, for the top, for the knob. So now we have our bottom and our top, excuse me, and the lid that'll sit on there. Again, nice and loose so the kids can easily get that off. The other reason you want to leave it loose is the temperature, humidity changes. If you make it too close of a fit, that wood shrinks as it dries out. With the humidity changes, it can get stuck. So this one's a little bit looser probably than I should have made it, but it'll work. All right, well, I'm changing over here. Any questions? Comments? Anybody awake?
I've been monitoring the members, and most of them have stayed awake, Gerald. I'm just letting you know.
I was just wondering how many dropped off. Well, we have about 3 left.
Awful quiet. I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Leave it up to the
Actually,
frequency.
we've got 29. 29 stayed. 31 came, 29 stayed. So we don't do much better at the museum, really.
We've
That's
been,
true. We haven't even gone to lunch yet.
but we have been muted. That's why we're
One of
Yeah,
those is
John.
when I dropped my iPhone out. It's
we're
quiet.
muted. That's why when you ask us a question, we don't answer.
Well, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, but I have to wake up first, and then I no.
All right. Okay, this is going to be the top. I had already rounded this. This is about 1.25 inches, I believe, and 1.25 inches long, or somewhere around there. I've got the actual dimensions are in Johnny's instructions there on how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I've already cut a tenon on this. on this end so I can mount this, and another set of jaws here. And this set, for some reason, this adapter on here is snug. I've got to actually use a little leverage to get that on there. I think the very end of those threads might be slightly messed up when I bought it. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this. This will end up, where the tenon is, will end up being the foot, or actually the tenon that will fit in the lid. And now we're going to see if I have any skill whatsoever using a skew as I chase this piece across the floor.
It's just skew.
Could have made that a little bit smaller, but it fit.
Is that a Nova, Chuck?
It is. This is a G3. The other one is also Nova, which I believe is the G2. Bring this out a little bit so my tool rest will fit up in there. All right. Actually, again, get my order out slightly here. Back this up a little bit. Take that back out. What I need to do first is cut the hole for the beads. Now, these beads, depending on where you get them, can be different sizes. This one is actually different size than the first ones I had, so make sure you measure them. This one is slightly over 3/4 of an inch. So what I do is I'll take a 3/4 inch Forstner bit, and I want to cut deep enough for this to recess down in there, because it'll end up looking like that. That one's just, actually it's not glued in. There we go.
Phil, part of what they would have seen if we, working with, is these beads are handmade, all of them. They're not made in a mold. There's some kind of mold involved with this one, but it makes it irregular. So they're all a little slightly. If I can,
You're cutting in and out, Gerald.
is it? Yep. Might be the battery.
All right, so I'm going to recess this. I've already, you may not be able to see it. I got a slight ink mark there from a Sharpie to show me how deep I'm mine to go. Or I didn't have that tight enough and it spun on me, which is why you hang on to these as you do this. Somewhere right about there ought to be the depth I need for the bead. And I already can tell you that it's not going to fit because it is not the right size bit, because I don't have one. So I'll just take and bring the tailstock or the tool rest around. And I will take my skew, not my parting tool, get the right one here, and slightly enlarge this. So again, I take it down slightly, test fit that. That's pretty good. A little bit loose, but it's good. And you can use, to mount those in there, you can use epoxy or silicone to mount those beads in here once you're done. As I showed you on some of the completed boxes, I like to paint these, try to find a paint that kind of matches the pattern of the box. If I had some cherry this size, I could also use that. So that can actually go just slightly deeper. But yeah, it's up to you whether you paint them or you leave them natural wood. Either one works, it does not matter. Yeah, if I flatten that out a little bit now, if I can get it back out of there. There we go. All right, so that's the start of the knob. And actually, I said I'm going to show, let's see if I have any skills, but I changed my mind. I'm actually going to use a detail gouge here. Found I do better with that. So I've got the general shape I want this way. And again, it's up to you how you design these. It's entirely whatever you want to make. So crank my speed up some here. And I'm just going to make the top. Just kind of start rounding it over. And since I paint mine, I am not real concerned about getting this extremely smooth. What I do is I will prime it some. I've got some sand and fill primer I spray it with beforehand. And then I put the color paint I want on it, so that kind of fills the grain in with the sand and fill primer. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to guess about the same, so the knob is the same on the top and bottom. Just make a groove there for me to work from. And I will bring in from the bottom here, what's going to be the bottom, to start this angle here. And bring it into the bottom of the groove, and then I'll start rounding down into that now. Again, you guys are probably better at this than me. This is just how I do it. And it works. It may not be the fastest, may not be the prettiest, but it works. Bring this down a little bit more. And again, one of my favorite tools, my scraper cube. Try to get a nice curve. And again, I would normally sand this. Some, doesn't have to be a lot since I am going to paint it. I want to bring out the diameter of this down a little bit so it's actually smaller than the knob, top of the knob, without going into my, hopefully going into my stuff here. And I'm going to reverse this in a minute so I can actually cut the tenon in the bottom, and I can take this down a little bit more then. Come on. Okay. That is probably about right. So I'm going to reverse this. And there's a couple of ways to do that. These jaws will actually fit down in where I cut that groove. If that doesn't work, well, I actually made a recess for the bead. If it doesn't work, you have a small stab center. You can do it that way also. But these should fit right on there. And I will put my live center back in. Actually using a cone one this time so that I can get up in there when I start taking the tenon down to fit inside the lid. Okay. That is still a little bit large. Now I come from the back side, I can bring it down a little bit more. That is probably small enough there. And for the tenon, since I used a 1/2-inch drill bit, the tenon will need to be a 1/2 inch. And start bringing this down. And I've got a wrench that I can use as I get close. I don't know if you guys have ever done this or not, but it's a fairly accurate way to measure for like a tenon. Down until it just fits over it. Let's see if that fits. That's a pretty good fit. So part way on anyway. So now bring this back up. And using my skew, I will take that down the rest of the way. And because the top of this is kind of domed, can't quite get it in there, a little bit domed there, a little bit of a rise. I want to recess underneath this so it'll sit flat, just like I did on the lid fit to the top. So I come in and cut that down with a slight concave on the bottom of this, so that when I mount it, it will be a nice flush fit. Check my fit again. Yep. And now what I'll do is cut that off so that it doesn't bottom out, which is what it's doing right now. So just take off the center there. May still be a little bit long, we'll see. Just a hair. Just need to take off a little bit more. And that makes a nice fit. Now, quit throwing my tools around. So, let's see which way I need to go. There we go. Got a nice fit there. Again, I'll go back and sand this, the bead. And there we go. There's the box. Some sanding, a little finish on it. And we're good to go. So, anybody have any questions?
Bill, going back to that cutter, that circular cutter you used to cut the material, where did you get that?
Circular cutter. Oh, the fabric cutter. From my wife. You can get them at Walmart, any fabric store, Joann's. They have a lot of different ones. The blade is replaceable, but I actually did steal that one from my wife. And the mat, I don't know if you noticed, it was sitting on this black mat, which is a self-healing mat. Let me grab it real quick. I'll show you. You can get these at a lot of different hobby stores or art supplies. And that way you lay that fabric on there and run it across, and it doesn't cut the mat, or if it does, you can't really see it, but this is actually two pieces I've taped together to get it long enough. But you lay stuff on there, cut it, doesn't dull your blade, and works really well. This was some scraps from my son when he did his architecture program at State, that he had some of the guys had cut them off and thrown them away. So I just grabbed them. But they actually sell these at fabric stores too for cutting fabric on. I don't know how much they cost, but they really work well. Works well if you're cutting out paper patterns for anything also.
You say you got two of them, right?
Well, that's two pieces I taped together to get long enough so when I cut the fabric, it's long enough that I don't have to move the fabric. I can lay the fabric down there and just go in one swoop there. This is actually the cutter. Hang on one second. There's actually the cutter. I think Fisker. This is an Olaf, O-L-F-A. rotary cutter, but Fisker makes them. She's had this one for years. I don't have any idea how old that is, but it's been around forever. Still got her initials on it. She
Does she
claimed
know
it.
you got it?
Yeah, she
know?
does. Yeah, she wasn't happy, but she knows I have it. All right. Good. Any other questions, comments?
Phil, let me ask the club now that we've had a demo. I want your feedback. I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. Phil, I thought you did a great job, and I learned a lot myself. But I want to hear honestly what the members have to say. So, guys, now's your time to speak up.
Hey, Phil. Hey, Phil, Don Ritchie. I think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Don. And thanks, Tim.
Lynn has his hand raised. Let's let Lynn speak.
Hey, Lynn. Maybe unmute yourself.
I think you did a great job, Phil.
Yeah, I
Thank
was
you.
trying to unmute. Great job. I mean, I think that's a great thing, and I think we can get started on doing some of these and make some kids' lives a little better.
I agree. And we've had, Gerald has made several. Wayne Hancock made one, brought it to one of the last meetings we had before we were canceled forever, it seems like. But there has been a couple of people. I do have a couple of pieces of PVC that if somebody would like a piece, I'll be happy to donate to them because it was given to me. I have 6 boxes completed right now, and I think 3 in process here. So, but if somebody wants to come by or meet me somewhere, I'd be happy to bring you one of these pieces that I've already cut.
Phil, let me ask a question. Is this PVC pipe supposed to be a certain thickness? Because I've seen some that has been a little thinner than that. Would that work or not?
You want to get as thin as you can. It's actually PVC 6-inch sewer pipe. This is supposed to be thin wall. It's what the guy told me when he gave it to me. Somebody else commented it looked a little thicker. So it may be a little bit thinner, but yeah, the thinner you get actually is better because it makes it a little bit lighter.
It looked thicker to me too. It was almost Schedule 40. Because I've got some other out here that I use for my dust collection, and it's much thinner. I think.
Okay.
Get a piece.
Yeah, I can't. I'm learning to look at a piece here. It's all cut up, so I've got a lot of where I can't see the writing on it without going and shuffling through it. But yeah, thinner the better. Like I said, it's supposed to be sewer pipe, and I know that's what Lowe's has. It's the green. Actually, let me grab it real quick. On the ends.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get a piece.
Okay.
Phil's off screen. I'm going to talk to some of my contractor buddies and see if they have some leftover pieces of 6-inch, because we do a lot of work in sewer, and I know a lot of contractors, and so I'll see if I can get some from them, some leftover stuff, and if I can, then I'll just make it available to the club.
That would be great. This one actually is the flared end of the pipe, where it goes out to fit over for the next section where they're glued together. So this one is actually a little bit larger in diameter, but I was able to use it and make it work. So let me grab the other piece here you can see. So you can see that is a little bit larger around, but it worked too. So I even used that piece. There was one piece where the actual step up is from where the normal size to the flared end. That little section there, maybe a ½ inch or 1 inch or so you cut off. But if you figure you're cutting maybe 5 inches on a 10-foot piece, you can get quite a few of these out of a section. Because all of these I've made. One, I think Wayne, I gave him a piece of PVC. So all of these are out of that one 10-foot section that the gentleman there at Central Pipe Supply in Pearl gave me.
Bill, look on that piece that you used for your demo where you talked about wiping off the ink that was on the side with
Yes.
acetone. It may have what schedule that pipe is right there.
This particular piece does not. It does not have it on there, but I can go grab another piece. I've got it right around the corner here.
I got that piece.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can see the thickness. It's well under a 1/4 inch. That stuff, to me, you had looked like it was a 1/4 inch.
Mine is, it looks like it's about a 1/4 inch. I'm looking through these
Yeah,
other
I
pieces.
Phil,
No.
some of it, like the thin wall stuff, won't have a schedule on it. It will have a DR number.
Okay.
I didn't get a long piece, so it's,
For pipe.
yeah, I would suggest also, I got my stuff at Keeling. That's the name. They used to be downtown, but they're now north. I'm trying to remember where. I think they're on 51.
Phil,
Yes.
it's Tommy James.
Hey, Tommy.
Good demo. Question, when you keep saying Central Supply, do you mean Southern Pipe?
Let me take a quick look. It may be Southern Pipe.